Saving our oceans and our reefs feels like a huge undertaking, and it is. But what if I told you that by considering and making just some minor adjustments, we can all make a difference? Seriously. And to break it all down today, we have Allie Miller, a marine naturalist graduate from the University of Hawaii and author. And she breaks down some practical steps that we all can do at home and while we're traveling. So it's a fun conversation. I hope you enjoy it. Let's go ahead and cue the intro.
Welcome to Hawaii's Best Travel Podcast, where we help you prepare for your next trip to Hawaii. Discover the experiences, businesses, and stories that make Hawaii the Aloha state. And now, your host, Bryan Murphy.
Aloha, and welcome to episode 36 of Hawaii's Best, where we help prepare you for your next trip to Hawaii. And hopefully that is sooner rather than later, but we got to do it safely. And as you may know, the August 1st date, and this podcast is coming on July 30th. So we're hoping that on August 1st, that Trans-Pacific travel would be open up to Hawaii, but it's not. It got pushed back to September 1st as of right now. So I'm going to keep you updated on that. Like I mentioned on these past episodes, I don't really have any new news right now to report other than numbers keep going up, and also number of people being tested keeps going up. So we're watching that on Hawaii and also on the mainland. Obviously, there's a lot of numbers going up right now. A lot of data. It's hard to sort through it all, but that's not what you're tuning in today to talk about the latest in coronavirus and the data and all that and analyzing it. Because here at Hawaii's Best, we're all about just bringing you some practical guides and tips to help get you the most out of your stay on the islands. To stay up to date on future episodes and to when travel is going to open up again, be sure to hit the subscribe button, and that'll just make sure that the next episode just pops right into your feed and you don't have to come find it again. So appreciate that. I'm also so excited to talk about today's sponsor with you because over the last couple of years, I have accumulated, I don't know how many travel bags. Yes, travel bags. I'm pretty picky in my travel bags and just how we travel individually and how we travel as a family. And I've always am looking for like super functional and durable, and it's got to look good too, right? Well, the search, at least for me, has ended. There's this company called Nomadic. Their attention to detail is amazing. I have their 30L travel bag, and what I love about it, it's a great bag for day hikes as well as a quick weekend trip. I got this bag back earlier this year, and obviously with everything shut down, we haven't been able to try it out. So it was cool to be able to kind of get it out on the road and do some hikes with it. And even though we're not able to travel as much or as far right now as we have in the past, I know one day we will be able to do all those things, but these bags are great for like road trips and even just a local hike, or even, just everyday use if you're going into the office or whatever your situation is. Now, the feature I love the most about this bag, it might be kind of silly to you, but it's the built-in sunglass hard case. Typically, I would just throw my sunglasses in like any compartment that I can find. But what I love about this bag is it has a built-in sunglass hard case where I can just, keep my Maui gyms in there looking fresh and not having to like rebuy a pair every year. So to learn more about this bag, just simply go to hawaiisbesttravel.com/nomadic. That's NOMATIC, hawaiisbesttravel.com/nomadic. Well, like I mentioned today, we are talking all about what we can do tangibly in helping protect the ocean and helping protect the reefs, because those things are super important. It's not just, a good thing to do. It's a super important thing to do when it comes to our environment and when it comes to just leaving this place better than we found it. And today to talk about some of these tips is Allie Miller. Allie Miller studied marine biology and sustainable science management at the University of Hawaii. And she's also an author. She's a children's author. She's written this crazy cool book. And this is how we kind of came in contact, because my wife and I, we have 3 girls who are elementary age. And this book is such a cool, colorful, amazing book. It's a cool book about what we can do to help sustain our reefs in the ocean. So with that, let's go ahead and talk story with Allie Miller. Allie, thank you so much for coming on Hawaii's Best today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. This is going to be fun. And before we jump into today's conversation, I want to just hear more about you and what's quarantine life like for you right now.
Well, I'm happy to be doing quarantine here on Maui.
Right.
It's been different. Things have kind of opened up a little bit here. We do have some restaurants and stores reopening, but there's still kind of a lot of stuff that's been closed or staying closed. And we're kind of just waiting to see what happens with travel when some of the resorts are going to open back up and stuff like that. Now,
for you being on Maui, when did you move and what's that story?
Yeah, so it's quite the story. I first came to visit Maui in 2015. I came here on vacation and, snorkeled in the ocean for the first time and saw sea turtles and just absolutely fell in love. And I've always loved the ocean and sea creatures, but I grew up in Reno. There's not much ocean around. Also, a lot of people don't know this. I have a pacemaker, so I'm not able to dive in the ocean. And I never really thought that a career in marine science was in the cards for me, but I can snorkel. So yeah, I came here, I fell in love. That was May of 2015. I went back to Reno, figured out what I needed to do to enroll in school here, to come here and study marine biology. And I moved here 3 months later in August of 2015. I was pretty set on it. So what I didn't know at the time, 2015 was, really hot summer, and we were experiencing some of the worst coral bleaching, not only here in Hawaii, but around the world that year. So I moved here excited to study marine biology and kind of dive into this. And then what I found was, a bunch of reefs that were dying because of the heat stress. So that was something I was learning about in school and kind of seeing as it was happening, as we were out there doing surveys for class. It really stuck with me. I didn't know about coral bleaching or what was really going on before I moved here and started studying it. So that's kind of where the book came from. I wanted to teach kids about this issue so they can grow up, kind of having a different perspective on everything.
Man, we have a lot to talk about. This is going to be good.
try to sum it up. But.
Right. So within 3 short months, you're like, okay, I'm sold. Moving to Maui, and I'm jumping into marine biology. Was that even on your radar prior to May of 2015?
No, I just growing up in Reno, I didn't really think about it. Coming here really just opened a new world of possibilities for me. And I'm one of those people, when I set my mind to something, I'm going to go for it. And yeah, I think a lot of people that move out here say this, but you just kind of felt like I was supposed to be here. Something was calling me to the island. And I'm really glad that I made that move. But it was absolutely terrifying. And everyone back home thought I was crazy. I just came and announced hey, I'm leaving and moving to Hawaii. And everyone was just kind of like, what? Okay. But I really wanted to study marine biology. I just never saw that coming until I got here. The University of Hawaii, actually on all the campuses, they have a program called the Marine Option Program. And it's basically a way for undergraduates to just kind of jump right into marine science classes.
Talking about your passion for marine biology, was it sparked on that visit to Maui? Is that kind of where you can where the epicenter of this passion started, or?
Yeah, I think it was the fire that lit it. I always loved that stuff, but coming out here and seeing it and really experiencing it was enough to make me decide to change my whole life. So yeah, I would say that was it.
You mentioned in 2015, the summer of 2015, reefs in Hawaii and also around the world were experiencing some incredible stress and deterioration. Maybe explain what was going on in that summer and what have you seen since in these 5 years? Has it been improving, not improving? Maybe just bring up to speed what was going on in 2015 and then what's happening today.
Yeah, so in 2015, 2016, we had some of the hottest summers on record. So corals, just kind of briefly, are really picky about the temperature of their environment, and they are very sensitive to heat. So our ocean temperatures are here in Hawaii typically ranging between low 70s and high 70s. And that summer, ocean temperatures got up to like 84, 85 degrees. So it was an extreme change. And so the corals, they have a little algae, symbiotic algae in their tissues that produces their food and really helps them survive. And when the corals get stressed out, they will expel that algae. And when that happens, they're losing their food source, and they also become more susceptible to disease. And you'll see them turn white. And that's where the term coral bleaching comes from. So the coral animals, the polyps themselves, are transparent, essentially. It's the algae, it's called zooxanthellae, that lives in their tissues that gives them their different colors. So when they release that algae, you can pretty much just see right through to their white mineral skeleton. And that's what you're seeing when all the corals appear to be turning white. So
when we talk about bleaching, is it basically the coral is starving? Is that basically a parallel?
Yes. So they are stressed out and they're not getting, the energy that they need. So when that happens, they become more susceptible to disease. And if the conditions don't improve, if things don't cool down, they can actually die off. So you'll see them bleach, and then you'll see, the same reef a month later that's pretty much completely overgrown with this brown-green kind of fuzzy algae. And that's what happens when the reef dies. It just kind of gets overgrown with this algae. So that's what we would see a lot of, like in class when we did surveys. We'd go out to a reef, survey the area, and then go back to the same reef, a month or two later, and you would see some extreme changes and a lot of what we call partial mortality, where you'll see one big coral head and part of it is alive and part of it is dead and overgrown with algae. So since 2015, we have seen some recovery. Luckily, the last few years, our summers haven't been as hot and the water temperatures haven't been as hot. So we haven't seen that kind of bleaching, but these types of events are becoming more common. We're starting to see these mass bleaching events occur, maybe every few years or every 5 years. So as the oceans get warmer, it's going to be a recurring thing, which is why we need to pay attention to it now.
In addition to hotter summers, what are some other factors that go into creating this problem?
There's actually a lot of things that are bad for corals or that could be bad for corals. So some other things that can cause bleaching. One thing that I think a lot of people are familiar with are chemicals in sunscreens. That's been known to cause damage in corals and coral bleaching. Sedimentation is also really bad for reefs. So that's, any kind of coastal construction that can damage reefs. And then, to be honest, I think heat is probably the biggest stressor right now because we're seeing, these temperatures increasing on a regular basis. So I would say that's probably the biggest threat, but there's quite a few threats to coral out there.
What are some of the kind of weapons, if you will, that we have in our arsenal to be able to combat? Because warming, that's a huge, big 30,000 foot
it's hard to wrap your mind
problem,
around.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But what can we do tangibly to help with this?
There's a lot of little things people can do. And I understand when you're looking at a problem that large, it's kind of hard to, zoom in on one thing that you can fix or change. So for visitors, when they travel here, you just want to be mindful when you're on the reef and, not touch anything while you're out there. You don't want to stand on the coral. You just keep in mind that, it is alive. I think, maybe a lot of people come out here and they don't really know, what it is or how important it is. Sunscreens. So when you're out there, in the sun wearing hats, long sleeve swim shirts, those rash guards or board shorts, just other protective gear to keep the sun off of you instead of sunscreens. There's been a lot of research on chemical-based sunscreens, particularly the chemical oxybenzone, and showing that that's really harmful to coral and their larvae. So there's been kind of this huge shift to mineral-based sunscreens that contain zinc or titanium instead of those chemical sunscreens. So that's something that people can do.
Okay, so talking about sunscreen, you see a lot of companies, it's kind of a buzzword right now, reef safe. You see a lot of that on people's products. And although it does have ingredients in it that are safer to the reef specifically, still there are plenty of tests that we haven't done yet on those specific reef safe sunscreens. What would you recommend as far as those types of products, or maybe even alternatives to sunscreen?
With the mineral-based sunscreens, you're absolutely right. We don't have much testing to show their effects on reefs. So we've kind of switched to these mineral-based sunscreens as an alternative. But usually what I recommend is clothing. Just hats, rash guards, the long sleeve swim shorts, board shorts. If you're on the beach or you're out there in the ocean, it's, a means of sun protection, but also protection when you're in the water. And using clothing as protection just keeps you from using those sunscreens. It keeps less of them from getting in the water. So if you are going to use a sunscreen for your face or something like that, I definitely recommend a mineral-based sunscreen, something with zinc or titanium. And you do want to be mindful if you're looking to purchase sunscreen. You'll see some of the major brands will now have reef-safe stickers on the bottle, and a lot of those still contain chemicals. They may be chemicals that haven't been tested as much, like oxybenzone, but they have a similar chemical structure and they could actually be just as harmful. We just don't have enough research. So clothing first as your first line of defense, then mineral-based sunscreens. Check the ingredients and make sure it's zinc or titanium based.
You talk about banned chemicals, and at the time of recording, it's already, which is crazy, halfway through 2020. Come January of 2021, Governor Ige, governor of Hawaii, signed into law happening January 2021 that there's going to be a few chemicals that are banned in the state of Hawaii. What chemicals are going to be banned come January of 2021?
It's products containing oxybenzone, and the other one is octinazate. So those are the two that have been studied. So come 2021, people won't be able to purchase products containing those chemicals in the state of Hawaii.
Right. Now, switching a little bit back at home, what are some things locally, and even people on island, in whatever island they're living on, or maybe even people on the mainland around the world, what are some things locally that we can be aware of to maybe even expand our understanding of how to take care of the environment in tangible ways?
Yeah, so there's a lot of little things that people can do that will help benefit the ocean. And some of them may be things that you wouldn't really think about. I think overall the bigger picture is reducing carbon emissions, because that's what's contributing to these warming temperatures in the first place. So kind of focusing on that. As far as what people can do at home, just picking up trash in your area keeps things from getting into waterways in the ocean in the first place. Believe it or not, I know a lot of people don't like to hear this, but reducing the amount of meat in your diet, even if it's just a little bit, can really help. Agriculture is a big contributor to climate change and CO2 emissions. So just reducing the amount of meat in your diet can have huge impacts. Planting native trees in your area. Planting trees is great. You just want to make sure that you're not planting something invasive. So you want to make sure if you're going to plant trees or anything, that it's something that would naturally grow in your area. Sometimes organic products can be hard to find or can be really expensive, but I am a huge fan of buying organic produce just because organic farming practices protect the integrity of soils. It keeps pesticides from getting into the land and then therefore washing out into the ocean. So actually, supporting organic farmers can actually do a lot to help. So it's just little things and, really thinking about products before you buy them too.
Even thinking about these last 4 months or however we've been in this pandemic, we've had to ask ourselves the question of how are my actions going to affect somebody else? And as kind of elementary as that sounds, I think we've seen it in a tangible way. We've all been affected by it. We've all been impacted by how are my actions going to impact the population. This is even on a very similar scale. And what we buy, what we're saying yes to, what we're saying no to, I think it impacts. And I think we've seen that in such a real way these last few months and how actions can impact the entire world.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Ali, taking all this into consideration, and as we talk more about your passion in writing the book, how did that all come about? Have you always wanted to write a book, or?
Yeah, I always wanted to write a book, but I didn't know it was going to be a children's book about coral. That was not something I saw coming. So obviously, I was really affected by everything that was going on. And when I was looking for children's books about this subject, I couldn't find anything. And you'll notice coral is usually the scenery in most ocean books. It's not the main character. So this is something that was kind of different. So at the time I was juggling 2 jobs and school. This is the most free time I've had in years.
Right now?
Yeah. I was like, I don't even know what to do with myself.
What were those jobs you were doing?
So at the time I was working at the Maui Ocean Center, and then serving a couple nights a week because that's what you got to do out here,
That's incredible.
Yeah. And then I was, attending school. I was taking
school too. That's right.
3 classes at a time. Yeah. So I've been really busy the whole time I've been out here. I haven't just been chilling on the beach in Hawaii. I've been working. So I mean, at the time I was already very busy, but I just, I just found something I wanted to do. So I had to go for it. So I knew nothing about writing a book, but I knew kind of the concept and I had something in mind. And I spent about 6 months actually writing it and just kind of messing with it. It does have kind of rhyming words. It has a bit of a rhyme scheme. Mm-hmm. So it was already ambitious to write a kid's book about coral bleaching. And then I decided I wanted it to rhyme also. So it was a lot to take on. Yeah, so I wrote it and then I wanted to self-publish because I know publishing can take a long time and climate change is happening now. So I just wanted to get it out as soon as possible. That was the main reason I wanted to go for self-publishing, but I had no idea what I was doing. So I hired a wonderful team of freelancers. I had an all-female team for the illustrations, publishing assistants, and then I had a PR manager. I did a small book tour in January before all this happened. I was actually in California. I was in Southern California and the Bay Area in Reno.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it is available kind of everywhere online on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart. It's kind of everywhere.
That's awesome. Well, first of all, way to go. I mean, that's huge. Like, check. That's an awesome accomplishment. So way to go.
Thank you.
So give us an overview into Cara's world, how Cara lost her color. What's it about? Give us a snapshot into her world and her friends.
Yes. So Cara is a lovely pink coral polyp, and she has a little friend named Zoe that lives in her body. That's the little algae that lives in their tissues. And they have a great time out there in the ocean until humans come along and the water temperature increases. And then Cara experiences coral bleaching. So the story is really about what's happening in the biology of corals as a bleaching event is taking place. And I don't want to ruin the ending, but it is a children's book, so it does have a happy ending. So yeah, the story, so you can't really talk to small children about renewable energy and what we can do. So that's really shown through the illustration. So you'll see on one page kind of some of the things that humans are doing that aren't great for the planet or for the ocean. And then at the end, they change their ways and it shows some of the good things that they're doing. So the book really does have a positive message, and that's what I wanted for it. And that is that we can be the heroes. We can make those changes and we can be the heroes in our own story too.
That's awesome. And you mentioned that you can grab that book pretty much anywhere you can buy a book, right?
It is available through Ingram Books. So if any schools or retailers are looking to purchase it to keep it in their store, it is available at a wholesale discount through Ingram Books. And then it's available online through Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's also on Target and Walmart.com. So it's out there on several websites. There is a Kindle version as well for those who want to be more eco-friendly and maybe not purchase a book, but still get to check it out. And then I do have now a quick Coral 101 lesson and a story time video posted on YouTube and on my Instagram. So if you search the book title, you should be able to find that there too.
Awesome. Way to go. Now,
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, right now, like you mentioned, you're like, I've never had this much time in my entire life.
Seriously.
I mean, that's a huge accomplishment in itself. And as you're maybe looking at, we're starting to slowly finding new normal and still getting on with their life and still accomplishing goals and still moving forward, because I think that's how we're all wired at our core.
Right.
What about you? What does the future look like for you? What are you excited about?
This has been a really weird time for everyone, including me. So I too have been kind of trying to figure out where I want to focus my energy. And I really enjoyed making the story time video. And now I have this time and I am looking into doing more stuff online. I really want to look into creating more educational videos and maybe working with other people from different organizations to do interviews or kind of, bring some of that other information across. So I really want to look into what else I can do in education, but maybe from a distance, from a computer. Yeah. I have a lot of people asking me what the next book is going to be about, and I've definitely tossed a lot of ideas around my head, and I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure which direction I want to go. But
you think there's another book?
It might be. It's not out of the question. Yeah. I will say that. Not anytime soon, because it takes a while. It took about 1.5 years to get this out. So, but it is a possibility. I will say that.
Awesome. I think the way you're thinking about, approaching education, my wife is a full-time teacher. This whole thing has obviously rocked the entire world, but specifically we're talking about education. Right. Education has been so much the same, and it has quickly in 3 months changed the way we look at education and how we teach and how we educate. Where moms and dads are buying courses online and self-educating and going at their own pace. It's pretty cool, being a dad of 3 girls, seeing them doing some self-educating and kind of working in their schoolwork throughout the day, virtually. And I think there's a component of social that we can't replace through Zoom calls.
Right.
But you're talking about doing more the education space and virtually. And this is just me speculating, but I think we're going to see more of that. Even coming out of this, I think we're going to see a new way and at least incorporating some of these principles and these practices that we've put in place these last few months. So I think where you're talking about doing more educationally online, I think that is huge. I could totally see that.
It's a kind of a way to be creative. And, instead of just me talking about a certain topic, I think, education is very much collaborative. So I could, reach out to people from different organizations and get them involved and be able to present that in an awesome, fun way to kids. Yeah. I think that would be great. So it's definitely what I will be focusing on.
That's awesome. All right, Ali, this has been so much fun.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the questions I love to ask everyone who comes on the show is, and specifically you, moving from the mainland 5 years ago, what are some things that you would love for people to know, or maybe some things that you've learned these last 5 years that you would love to be able to pass on to someone who's coming to the islands for the first time, or maybe even year after year?
Absolutely. Hawaii is a beautiful place and very rich in culture. I always encourage everyone to learn a little bit about the culture, before they come. And, even trying to learn how to pronounce some words will help you getting around, looking at street signs and stuff like that. Yeah, definitely just looking into the culture here in Hawaii. And then also, knowing what you can do if you're out there in the ocean to help protect the reef. So not standing on the coral. A lot of people don't know the green sea turtles that you'll commonly see around the beaches here are a federally protected endangered species. So it's actually illegal to approach them within 10 feet. So you just want to be mindful of that and be respectful of the animals when you're out there in the ocean. That's their home too. So you want to observe, but not touch.
What are some of your favorite places, talking about Maui, or things to do?
So I love Hana. I love the east side of the island. I definitely don't get to go over there enough, but it's just gorgeous. I really love snorkeling when I can get out there. I have a little more time to do it now. And just seeing what's out there, I feel like every time I go, I see something new. I've seen manta rays and, just all kinds of fish and really cool stuff out there. So I just like hanging out at the beach. I love this place because there's different environments kind of everywhere. So you have the beach, and you have the jungle, you can go up on Haleakala, and you have, this beautiful forest. So just having that variety, even though I may be on an island, I feel like, I can experience all these different environments in the same place, which is really awesome.
That is awesome. Well, Ali, thank you so much for your time and coming on today. We already talked about how people can find your book, but maybe just reiterate, how can people buy the book and find you and connect with you?
Yes, so you can buy the book online. I usually recommend Amazon just because it's often on sale through Amazon. There is a hardcover and a paperback copy, but also through Barnes & Noble online. If you just search the book on Google, a few things should pop up. If you'd like to follow my Instagram, it's ali.miller.author. I've been getting better about posting stuff, but I will post updates on the book and events and, just kind of things going on as far as the environment or things going on in Hawaii. So I've been trying to keep that updated as well.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you got it.
Aloha.
Aloha. Well, I just want to thank Ali again for her time and all the resources that we mentioned. The best way, the easiest way to go ahead and get to all that stuff is go to hawaiisbesttravel.com/episode 36, and you'll be able to find all that stuff there. You can buy how Cara lost her color there. You can read more about Ali and also links out to her social accounts as well. My biggest key takeaway is I have a family history of skin cancer, and so the thought of protecting yourself from long exposure from the sun is super important. It's always been ingrained in me. So I've always have used sunscreen, sunblock, but obviously I haven't always used sunscreen that was chemical free. So we made that switch a few years ago, and we've been using, zinc-based sunscreens on ourselves and on our girls as well. But like Ali mentioned, the best way to protect yourself from the sun is with clothing. Yeah, I know, like you're going to Hawaii and you want to work on that tan, and that's all good too. And, make sure you have that zinc-based sunscreen. But if you're not so much concerned about that, get in a rash guard, a hat, especially when you're snorkeling. Like, even if you're looking to get that tan, like that's all cool. But if you plan on going snorkeling, you definitely want to invest in, I would say, a long sleeve rash guard, because you'll just get toasted out there snorkeling. What I also loved too about this conversation was, there's a lot of science-based research backed into what Ali was talking about, but there's some tangible things that we can do. There's nothing more, I guess, like for me, that just kind of bums me out is when we talk about a big problem, like, the reefs are shrinking and they're bleaching and it's not good. And we just talk about problems without any tangible solutions. Like, it drives me crazy. Maybe it does you as well. So what I really loved about coming out of this conversation was that there's some tangible ways in which we can take action, and there's simple ways that we can do. And I think it just comes down to just being aware and just making those small adjustments, especially if you're planning on traveling to a place like Hawaii, Australia, somewhere like that, where the reefs are in need of protecting. I think that's just super important just to consider some of these things. So I hope you enjoyed today. And if it brought value to you, you can go ahead and just leave a rating and review. Let us know what you think. I'm also always looking for just content, what you want to hear about. You can reach us directly at contact@hawaiisbesttravel.com. And we respond to every email that we get. So thank you for that. Hang in there. I know we're going to travel again soon. Until next time, guys, be well. Aloha.
Thanks for listening to Hawaii's Best Travel Podcast. To stay up to date on future episodes, be sure to subscribe. For more information to help you plan your next trip to Hawaii, visit hawaiisbesttravel.com.